May we all have a happy and healthy Jewish New Year. It's 5781. I don't think any of us imagined, as we began 5780 last fall, that the year would have gone by the way it did. Will next year be happy? When we gather again a year from now to welcome 5782, will we be rid of this pandemic, these environmental catastrophes, this police and government brutality, these crises that have seemed to define our most recent journey around the sun? Will next year be happier than last year? I hope so. I pray for it to be so. In times like these, Happy New Year becomes more than just a greeting. It is weightier than usual. In happier times, Happy New Year becomes almost a throwaway line, something said to check a box without putting much thought into what it means. How many times have we wished anyone a Happy New Year, at Rosh Hashanah or on New Year's Day, without putting much thought into what it would mean for the person's new year to be happy, without bothering to find out if they needed anything? Those of us with sufficient privilege have had the luxury of not meaning anything in particular when we have said Happy New Year, beyond a perfunctory greeting. Those of us with sufficient privilege have played it safe, putting nothing more than the minimum ante into the pot of social concern. We have only to open our eyes this year to realize that safety is gone now. This year, all of us have more at risk than usual, and those of us accustomed to risking little must get used to the idea that our chips are down. Those of us with less privilege are used to risking much. For those of us with less privilege, it comes as no surprise that we are not safe, that we've never been safe. They've been trying to tell the rest of us that our safety was illusory, whether that safety come from material wealth, from social biases, or from any other source. The message may have finally hit home. We are all in this together now. What can we do? So much has seemed discouraging about the year gone by, so discouraging that we may feel tempted to retreat into depression. Convinced that we are powerless to act, that nothing we do can matter, we may indeed do nothing until we realize that life is no longer a spectator sport. When we are all in the arena, doing nothing is not an option, yet the situation is no less discouraging. We have a president who deliberately fomented opposition to wearing masks, knowing the virus was deadly, purely as a cynical short-term political ploy. As you read this, opportunistic right-wing white militia members are stopping cars at gunpoint on remote Oregon evacuation routes. A white terrorist murders two people in broad daylight in Wisconsin, walks right past a line of police who do nothing. Brown children still languish in cages cruelly kept at 55 degrees, the horror of their stolen childhoods lost on a society that has become too accustomed to their pleas. Perhaps we must do something, but what can we do? We are small, and the problems of this year are big. I don't have an answer, but I do have an idea. It is an idea older than our current problems, older than civilization, older than humanity. It is an idea that has seen the world through a lot of changes, but has remained steadfast, confident, and quietly hopeful. It is an idea that is still right. It is an idea much older than Judaism, but that, in my opinion, is the heartbeat of Judaism. It is the idea of responsibility. Our responsibility makes us who we are. Does the arc of the moral universe bend toward justice, as Theodore Parker said and Martin Luther King famously quoted? It bends toward justice because people are responsible. We participate in that history because we are responsible. Our highest blessing is our capacity to be responsible. In a world whose problems are so frequently caused by frightening depths of irresponsibility, our capacity to be responsible is an indelible reminder that humanity can do better. We need not resign ourselves to live under the iron rule of cruelty. Might does not make right. Yes, might often prevails, as we've seen too often in recent years, but that is not the end of the story of our moral universe. Authoritarianism is unstable because people are responsible. Our recent national and global nightmares have not swept away the reality of responsibility. We are called to moral battle against a terrible idea. The idea that freedom consists in the ability to exercise our right not to help someone who needs our help. This animating idea of the alt-right, the source of so many of today's problems, from climate change to police brutality to our nation's abysmal performance containing COVID-19, is not without its own firm place in American history. In a country whose very edifices of freedom were erected on the backs and over the graves of murdered and enslaved indigenous peoples, is it any wonder that some would identify that freedom primarily as the freedom to cause suffering to others? The term alt-right is new, but its animating ideas are as old as slavery, as old as smallpox-infested blankets presented as gifts to unsuspecting Native Americans. It is as old as those who have always believed that might and only might makes right, and its insidious corollary that might can best be demonstrated by making others suffer. But it is not as old as responsibility. Despite simplistic, socially biased constructions of Darwinism, evolutionary biology does not teach that might makes right. As a matter of fact, even animals are observed acting responsibly. Birds, the direct descendants of dinosaurs, form stable families, with older siblings continuing to look after younger siblings when they grow up. Squirrels bury acorns to be shared with other squirrels. They even let other squirrels see where they bury their acorns. A rat, seeing another rat in trouble, will generally try to help. If animals can do it, so can we. And to debunk the pseudoscience, if animals evolved to do it, so did we. It is the might makes right idea that is false. It is the freedom to make others suffer that is worthless. For freedom without responsibility is no freedom. It is slavery to the lie of cruelty that we must always, like automata, accept abuse from above and inflict it below. There is nothing free or interesting or in any way beyond the utterly predictable about such an existence. That vision is as dreary as it is cruel. Those who want freedom will find none of it without responsibility. In responsibility, we become free to be our better selves, and we know what it means to be our better selves because we are responsible. Let us vow to be more responsible this year. You decide to whom or to what you want to be responsible. To your family, to your community, to God, to your values. It's important to be responsible to ourselves, but responsibility doesn't mean just to ourselves. So let your responsibility this year be to something higher and broader. Participate in the bending of the moral universe toward justice. And if you need hope, let it come from the fact that responsibility is real and that you are responsible. Happy New Year.